All right, I'm back again. Thank you for joining me at Kopi Events. And this is your host, Vance here. That's right, as usual, before we start any of our session, it's always to start up with a good, warm Kopi Events. All right, it's coffee today, yeah? Nowadays, the beard also having the coffee. All right, people, thank you so much for joining back again in another exciting segment. I think my guest speaker also should drink coffee because he also has some beard and mustache. So let's see if that coffee is going to touch his beard and mustache. We will check it out later, right? Let's do a test on that. Okay, so today's topic is all about mental health, and of course with our regular speaker, one of the familiar faces in Kopi events who always join us with exciting topics that we always discuss with other panelists in the past. Why this topic is very important that I need to explain that, because even the speaker that is joining us is Dr. Arvinder, one of the very icon doctors, I will have to say, in even during the COVID period, and he have joined us many of these talk sessions, not only in Singapore, but even in Malaysia as well. So we're just going to discuss a little bit of things that, what are the things that we can do, especially when we talk about mental health, that mean turning inwards rather than turning outwards. So we're going to do a lot of discussions. We had a countless meeting, countless of time that we always talked about with Dr. Arvinder on coming up with different topics to bring it out to the Kopi Events platform and to people out there who are seeing this. So if you're watching this, please do share and like, because I believe that today's topic is going to be very fruitful, especially second year of COVID is running in, and people are going through. So we want to find out some of the indications, when will people will fall under stress, what is depression, what is anxiety, what is panic, because I'm in the field of fitness and health industry as well as doctor, and many of you all will probably have heard that there are many cases going on right now. People are just going through off the path and off the lane, things are happening. Because so we're going to identify that, we're going to discuss with that, and we're going to explore. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring in my guest speaker, Dr. Arvinder. Hello, doctor.
Hi Vance. Hi Vance, how are you?
I'm good. I was just telling our viewers that we're going to do a beard and a mustache test by drinking the coffee.
Yeah, I have a very short beard, so it's okay.
Okay, probably we do that in another 3 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, doctor, for joining
Movember,
me.
Movember.
November, that's right, in November, right? Thank you so
Yep.
much for joining me again, once again at the Kopi Events platform.
Always a pleasure.
So, doctor, today's topic is, of course, we're going to talk about mental health. I know
Yep.
that today we are going to do a bit of discussion on both sides of the causeway. One is our favorite country, Malaysia, and your favorite country, probably Singapore. But before we want to start on, do you want to talk a little bit of experiences in Singapore when you are here, and you had a lot of conferences and kind of stuff? Maybe our viewers will know you a little
I
bit of that also.
I I honestly I miss Singapore, bro.
I miss Malaysia.
I I I look forward to going to Little India in Singapore,
Okay.
Serangoon Road,
Okay.
my favorite place to always hang out. It's easy to be vegetarian there. I'm vegetarian about 5 to 7 times a week. So when I'm there, it's like so easy to be vegetarian. It's easier to be vegetarian than non-veg. I miss I, I miss walking. I always I'm in Singapore at about like 5:30 in the morning. So when I'm there, I miss walking along the roads. I walked very, very long distances. I think about maybe out to 30 km also I've done in the morning. But it's just fantastic. I hope my Singapore brothers and sisters are keeping well. I understand that a lot of similarities of problems we're having between Malaysia and Singapore, especially in terms of mental health, a lot of similar issues. I didn't hesitate twice when you told me or when you asked me to let's approach this problem. I think it's timely, it's important, it's an ever-growing problem, and we cannot stop talking about it because we need to raise the awareness more and more.
Agree, doctor. Um, I mean, of course, you have said you're part of Singapore, but I got to say, we miss all the KL, all the good food, local food, the shopping. I think even when decades and decades ago, when Singapore and Malaysia was one, I think we're still brothers and sisters, even though there's a causeway in between. But I think both of us are in a very good relationship in terms of countries, and we share a lot of similarities, right? We love the other side, you love the other side. So I think this is how it's been going on for almost over what 1 year, slightly more than a year, right
Yeah,
now.
when they always talk about building the third causeway or something like that, you know what I always say? That's building another bridge. It's building a bridge. You know how we say we build a bridge with another person. Don't burn your bridges. I feel the more bridges, the better.
So definitely we are missing the Masjid India, in KL and all those shoppings and that stuff. So hopefully, but of course you said it in a lighter side, but also the very deep meaning during this period, both the countries as well. I think having a lot of people are having a lot of issue, and most of our brothers and sisters from Malaysia have been stuck here. They can't go back. I just want to share this short real incident that I know a brother here who's a stylist. He has a newborn baby, and the newborn baby is already 8 months old, and if not even carry that. So tough situation. He can go back, but he might not be able to come back. So it's so much of consideration. He decided to stay back and fight on to provide the best for his family. So we can totally understand of our brothers and sisters from Malaysia are stuck in Singapore. It can be a mental torture. It is a
Yeah,
mental torture as well.
yeah. I've seen. I've owned family members who are stuck there. I won't say stuck, but they're unable to come back. And thank God for technology that we can actually have a video conference,
Yeah.
face-to-face talk. If not, it's even, I mean, bad.
Agree, doctor. Agree. All right, doctor. So let's jump into today's topic that we want to talk about, mental health. So I know we both of us we have not discussed about this. We came into a light that okay, we decided to go on a great discussion. So we have three of these questions first. But maybe you want to start first, or you want me to get started first before you,
No,
doctor?
I think you start first.
Okay, doctor. So, we've been talking about this topic for the longest period of time. It's almost about more than 15 months. Things are just going in and out. I mean, both countries are very concerned with their protocols. Safety is the main thing. Of course, sometimes it can be pain, it can be pleasure. It cannot be the both. Everybody would love to have the normal life back again without the mask and going out freely, doing all those stuff. But unfortunately, we can't until vaccination take place. Everybody is safe, and to a point that it has to be a herd community, or even to a point where everybody is vaccinated, and we need to see the results. So at this period of time, I mean, the one thing that goes into their mind is when will it be over? So the question mark that can be actually causing them a lot of stress. Like I just mentioned to you, brothers and sisters who got stuck here, not seeing their families and kind of stuff. Even for us, if you don't go back for 1 day or 2 days after a business trip, you do miss your family. But for them, it's like 8, 9 months. just watching over online and talking, not having that the sensation, the feeling, the home food cook, by the mom and parents. So many things are missing. What will be the mindset, doc? I mean, what can someone overcome by that?
I think number one is expectation. We expect things to get better. We expect to be with our families, which is all very humanistic. It's all it's all common. However, I think our expectations have not been met because the virus is being very notorious. So I think one of the ways to actually overcome this is to take it day by day, not to have too long plans ahead. Sometimes we always say that, okay, I will save my leave for this and that, and then unfortunately at this point of time we cannot we cannot look too far ahead because we don't know what's going to happen because of the way the pandemic is reacting with the conditions always changing. One moment we are on lockdown, one moment we are not on lockdown. Sometimes we are on very strict lockdown, sometimes we are a bit lax. So I think it's to take one day at a time. That's a very useful thing. A lot of my patients find that they are taking one day at a time. So I think another thing we have to do is to ensure that we keep our mental health healthy. The only way is basically to have short term goals, daily goals. Take everything by day and make the most out of it. You can't see your family, at least video call, talk to them as much as possible. Be thankful that we live in a time where there's technology. I can speak to Vance who's in Singapore. Vance can speak to me who is far away. Uh, you know, as good as we are being there, but of course, like you mentioned, there's no physical and sensation touches. But I think, nevertheless, let's look at it as another way of keeping everyone safe.
All right, doctor. Can you hear me now? Just
Yes.
lost you for a while. Hi, doctor. Can you hear me right now?
Yes, Vance, I can hear you.
Okay, doctor. So we heard that, and so what you're saying is no expectations, right? Don't have any expectations. I think that will be one of the key. But like again, I mean, when I mentioned to you that sign and symptoms is very important as well. So when I was talking to this particular brother, he's from Malaysia, and he'd been stuck in Singapore for almost about close to a year, and have not touched his baby, carried up, and kisses or that comfort. But as a friend, right? I mean, what will the suggestion or the indications? Again, someone can go into a stress because of that. Can a person go into a little bit more into like anxiety or even depression, right? 8 months or 9 months, because there's no indication for someone. Like, I got a fever, I come and see you. Hi doc, I am not feeling well. But for something like stress and depression, there is no indication. Only a person who understands him looks at him and say that he has lost so many ticks off, right? I mean, you fall under the category, then we can understand. Other than that, people don't go and see a doctor. What will be the guideline, doc?
I think it's first of all, it's about thresholds. Maybe if you are seeing your family more often, your threshold of actually being patient, depression, anxiety, and stress may be actually very, very different. Now that you have removed that factor, the threshold becomes much less. So you're actually very fast that you can approach the tipping point. So I think one of the things we have to do is to recognize and like I've always advocated, the best person to actually tell whether you are tipping over the point is the person who you're meeting every day. Someone who meets you, someone who says that, hey, you have been snapping very often lately. Look, your work is I mean, you're okay, but your work, your you being upset is showing in your work. That's all indicators, and that is where you can pick up. So I think the most important thing is that we have to identify or help people identify if they have any issues. Because if we have issues as well, we hope that other people will do it for us. So I think what goes around comes around. We need to look out for each other.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you for that. So that will be the first question. So now I leave it to you because I know you also has prepared three questions, so we can
Yeah.
go one after one.
So, Vance, I think one of the most important thing is in your job scope is you help a lot of people. So, how do you actually there are two questions in this. I have three questions, but there are two questions in this. Maybe you want to combine it together. Number one is how do you advise your clients how to cope with stress? And number two is how do you cope with stress personally? Because when you listen to many people at one particular go, it's not easy. Trust me, I do that day in day out. So how do you cope with
Okay.
that?
So you want me to answer the first one or the second one first?
Please, at your will, anyone as well.
Okay, perhaps I want to go into the second one first because I think it's about self. Um, I mean, self stress is actually self induced, I call it. Because we work in an environment or in this world where we are always for targets, stress, bringing back the bacon, and so much of a pressure point that someone goes into. Always want to be better than others. So we did a lot of comparison, right? Oh, why is having a Mercedes? I want to have a Maserati. Or why? It's always about comparison. But that is another part of the stress. But I think what we need to do is we need to come into a pace. If we are running at 180 miles per hour, sometimes we need to do reality check and try to reduce into a smaller pace to be in. Because if we don't, eventually anyone, for the matter of fact, will go into a period of stress. And if there's a stress in thin line, and if that person doesn't understands it, it's easily for anyone to go into the other spectrum, which I call depression, which we talked about it before. So for myself, what I basically do is I do a lot of inwards turning, which means sometimes I just go shuts off, which means I spend most of my time in nature, which I believe there is where you tend to feel more relaxed. Even if you look at our revolutionary, that we were actually from the forest itself. Now it's all concrete buildings and kind of stuff. So the kind of adjustments that one should do is always to turn inwards and do things that you love about. And I think is not about other people's comments or judgments. So, whether you wear a slipper to a shopping center or you wear a shoe to a shopping center, it doesn't matter to other people who judges you at all the time. But I think what is very important is you pay a lot more attentions and you give yourself a lot of respect. We tend to love ourselves more. We need to do that. But sometimes we always spend the other side, which is always outside, outward bound versus inward bound. So for myself, I spend a lot of my time inward bound. And by doing that, I can able to accept or rather just let it flow. So there's a lot of, like what you said, people go through a lot of changes or a lot of cycles that they come into their life. But understanding is one part. But if you dive into it, then probably you will also be sucked into that. So there's always a line that you put under a shield, and you try to salvage them out from that. But that's the second question I'm going to answer. But coming back to the first question, I mean, the question that I'm going to answer about is just inwards. I mean, I always turn inwards about myself. And time to time, you need to take a break for yourself. That means only your break. So there's sometimes like, you go for your movies, or you can go and have your own dinner or lunch on yourself, or go for a movie, whatever that you want to do, but you spend time with yourself. So you appreciate yourself. I think that is what is lacking in a lot of people, because it's always about family work, and somewhere around the line, somebody will go into a burnout. So to prevent that, turning inwards is very, very crucial. So that is how I maintain that. But the other part where you asked me, doctor, which is about the clients who are going through tremendous amount of stress, I think everyone does. And but of course, we're not going to mention names here. But I think the important part is to get better each step. So we're going to take small baby steps, and small baby steps means We're going to put the effort. There's someone always behind you to support you, your families, your loved ones, and whoever that you have as a role model. And I always like to use this quote, Doctor. Probably you will agree that we don't need motivation from external forces, but of course we can learn to podcasters and famous motivation speakers and kind of stuff. That is for motivation. But the person that should motivate our own self is the person you are in, right? This is the person, and this is the person that you need to respect about. So when we do that, you actually feel more determined to do all things that you want to do for yourself. So that angle is, of course, we got to accept it. And I do see some changes happening along the way because uh, when someone starts exercising, their hormones fluctuates, their stress hormones, the cortisol starts to comes down, and dopamine, endorphin, and we call about serotonin and every kind of hormones that we can talk about. I call the dose hormones. So eventually they get better each day. But exercise plays a very important part. Not only just training with a coach, but even if you go for a walk, or even if you do something for yourself to perspire, any kind of activity that you do, all right, outdoor in the sun, I think that will be one of the best part that I see some improvements happening. Huge improvements will have to happen, but I've seen that, Doctor.
Great stuff, Vince. Great stuff. Just to also, actually, maybe you can go to one question, then I can ask you the one question, the last question at the end.
Okay, Doctor. So in the medical field, right, one will have to get into a professional help before someone's okay. You need some kind of interventions, or you need to have certain, because we when we look at the cycle, there's always a therapist, a counselor, a psychologist, and then followed by psychiatry. So the step by step. But if someone who is facing a situation where they lost of interest in sex, they lost interest in food, in sleep, they feel stressed, they feel moody, but one will never walk into a clinic and say that, doc, I'm depressed, I'm anxiety, I need help. Nobody will do that. But I think the loved ones have to play a part. But do you think, is there something that can be improved? Because like I said earlier, doc, there is no line to identify which is depression, which is stress. When is a person already in the stress or depression stage? How can this be handled, doctor? In your line, which you have seen tons of patients, what will your advice be?
I think there are a few things. Number one is to be honest. Sometimes a patient walks in, they come and tell me that they have a headache, they are not feeling proper, but actually they have another issue. It could be a mental health issue, they could be having erectile dysfunction. And later, when you actually start looking about it, you find that it's actually they are having depression, or they're having some amount of stress or anxiety. So I always tell people that if you live alone, it's difficult for people to look at you. You're not a person who mix around. I always suggest do the DAS scale, the depression, anxiety, stress scale, 21. It's a freely available scale. It's been translated in. It's in English, translated into Bahasa Melayu, and also in simplified Chinese. So what we can do is we can actually use that. It's a good screening tool. Doesn't mean that if it says that you're depressed or anxiety or having anxiety and stress, that means you're having depression, anxiety, and stress. It could be temporal, it could be a small period of time, but get help. That's a sign for you to get help. So that is one. Number two is uh, we must always think about how whether we're getting enough people to talk about this, because there are two types of awareness. One is the awareness among the patients. One is the awareness among healthcare professionals. So if like today you go to another country, I would say a third world country, maybe in the African continent, you speak about maybe domestic abuse, or you speak about maybe some amount of depression. Not many doctors will think it's a problem. It may be normal because again cultural, social bound. it may be very different. I'm not saying that everyone is like that. I'm just saying that in general, when you see in a lot of third world countries, domestic abuse is just looked away upon. Not indefinitely in Malaysia and Singapore, but unfortunately, in many parts of the world, it happens. So, in that sense, we can also look at depression, anxiety, and stress. I think the most important is actually not to look for depression, anxiety, and stress, but what is the causative factor? And honestly, a lot of today causative factors is related to COVID-19. You know, I will just share with you some Malaysian statistics which was published about 2 months ago. Every 6 hours, someone commits suicide in Malaysia. That's number one. That's number one. Number two is we always see now that I think it was in June. We have already 478 people of committing suicide compared to 643 last year, 607 the year before, and we're only halfway through the year. Number one. Interestingly enough, 500,000 of children in Malaysia are having some form of mental distress, depression, anxiety, and it's becoming more and more worrying because one in every 10 of severe mental health condition has actually thought about suicide or actually attempted suicide, and that is only in children. And now we see, because of COVID-19, we see it increasing on a day-to-day basis. I'm not saying that it's very badly handled, but the point I'm trying to get across is it is very rampant, and it's becoming more rampant. Previously, there was some amount of social, and religious background that actually prevents this from happening. But I think even the people who are helping these other people may have also been undergoing some stress. I've been noticing that a lot of NGOs that do the calling centers that help people, they have been stretched to the max. In fact, I was trying to do something the other day with a few of them. They said, "Look, doc, we are really very stretched." Sometimes they even have to put people on hold, and it is never a healthy thing to put someone who is depressed on hold for too long. So they try to go through very fast. They're trying to get more through volunteers. But I think what I'm trying to say here is the severity of the problem is the magnitude is becoming more and more. And I think, as we know, that mental health conditions is not a short-term thing. Sometimes it takes a long-term thing. We have to be prepared. I can only imagine that our brothers and sisters in Singapore may be facing something similar. Not in statistics, but in terms of mental health issue.
Doctor, I just want to quote this before we continue on that. They say the silent killer previously was actually the myocardial infarction and also the cancer. But looks like we got to add this COVID-19 into depression and mental health into it as well, because now it seems like the biggest issue in the whole wide world. Like you have said it on the dot, that people at this point of time couldn't understand, all right? And it's quite surprisingly, even if you take a walk in the streets, people are confused. The other day I was just walking by, a particular woman was just sitting down, just staring at her phone where the food is there. She's not even doing anything. I think she just completely went blank and just looking at the phone and just not moving at all. So I was quite concerned what's really happening at the moment, because of course people are feeling stress and things are not normal. And this is actually basically, if someone goes into uncomfort zone, which always they be in the comfort zone, there is a huge changes in the pattern. The neurons fire differently. your body just lacks of everything that what you were experiencing it before, and fatigueness is coming in. And I'm sure, doctor, when you talked about these cases like taking their life away, the common so it actually seems to be like a stigma. People do not want to talk about it. People don't want to share about it because it's something that it may trigger. But of course, like I said, it's a growing concern at this point in time, and I think we all have to be stronger in the mindset. There is a saying that you go to the gym to train your body, but where do you go for the mind to train? And now in the field of even the health or fitness, the mental strength is what is most needed. Anything else, it's not about the muscle, it's not about getting fit, it's about how are you going to get your mind stronger and stronger day by day. But having said that, doctor, I think like another stuff that we talked about, the mental state of a person that goes under a period of 8 months or 9 months of things like taken away, like go under restrictions and even lockdown in Malaysia. So many things are happening, and without any light at the end of the tunnel, people will be expecting, what, I'm going through the tunnel and I will see a light, but there isn't any light. Given that what you have said it beautifully earlier on, that people with expected things to happen but it's not happening, so that kind of disappointment that is happening to them, and so many changes that we do see along. So I think at this point of time, love is much more needed. We have to give love to everyone, not only to our loved ones. So if we see someone in a state of confusion, their eye bags are bad and they are not very vocal, there's some behavior changes, like what doctor has mentioned. If there's some behavior changes in your friends, in your families, I think you have to act like a doctor and say, hey, ask a couple of few questions. And are you okay? Are you fine? It must be a genuine question, not just for the sake of asking, hi, how are you? That's becoming like a standard communication. But doctor, I do came across in Malaysia as well. People are now getting very agitated. Somebody horns and straight away it's turned into a fight. Is it true? Because in Singapore, people also don't like horn. You on somebody's like, hey, why are you making mistakes? Why are you on me? Kind of stuff. What is the state in right now? Especially when I point you on a mistake, people get agitated fast because of their frustrations. What is your take on that, doctor?
I think it's road rage. Road rage, as I think it has reduced over the last year or so, because I think people are staying more at home. People are not traveling a lot, so they spend less time on the road. But I think agitation on a whole is getting more because you interact less with people, and because of so much of restrictions, I think it is a high tendency of people to actually get agitated faster. You have seen parodies or even on social media, people wearing masks, and then they are so eager to take it off, because of the agitation and all that, even though it is very important for your safety. But agitation is getting the better of a lot of people. I think it is a high time that it's high time that, number one, we be a bit more considerate, that other people may be going through the same frustrations, the same thing. The second thing is, I think people on the other side should understand that, hey, you know what, this guy may be having a tough time as well. Not everybody's having the same tough time as everybody else, but I think everybody's having a tough time. So I think there's a bit of tolerance that needs to come into play. And coming back to what you said earlier, I agree. Sports was last time all physique. Now it's mental health. I did my diploma in football medicine. There's one whole chapter and component just on psychology and mental health. Coaches and trainers are getting psychologists to come in to psycho the players in such a way that they are built to win. That is why you find those days, even in football, you will see that the smaller teams will never beat the bigger teams. But these days you cannot predict at all, because everybody is that even everybody is told that you are actually good, you can actually do your best, you can actually win this game, and you find it really reverses the psychologies. The players are more pumped up to go in and get the job done. So yeah, I think there is a very big component of mental health. I think even if you feel unwell, but you tell yourself, I'm going to do it. Let's do this. Let's go ahead with this day. Let's make the most out of it. I think it changes the complexion of the entire day. Yeah.
Doctor, they say that I don't know whether you agree to me, but I will say that they say eyes are the windows to the soul, right? But do we have to agree right now that the eyes are not to the souls? I mean, it's now to the brain because you do not know when a person looks at you, you can actually see stories. Eyes are sunken in, posture is down. They tend to have very low in energy in replying. They don't have any kind of enthou in them. These are all signs and symptoms. What that these can't be accurate. You have to speak to a person and understands. And if you think that if your friends or families are isolating themselves, these are possibilities. All right, it can't be diagnosed because you're not a doctor or psychiatrist or psychologist, right? But you need to get help to them, right? And so I think we all need to open our eyes and ears and see. Very interesting, doctor. Even psychotherapy, right? It's about mental resilience. It's about training your mind to be stronger and fitter at all areas and all times, especially during this period of time. I think our kids, schools kids, right? All academic based, which is definitely needed at this point of time because it's all about going to the corporate world and kind of stuff. But I think we have to evolve. We have to get our kids to be stronger. Not when a kid fell down, say, "Oh, yo, my child dropping." You can't be like that. We can, but we have to make them tough and puff and able to handle the world, the real world, because situations like this, I think the toughness is what makes them stronger, which I believe, and I think. What is your take on that, doctor?
I believe that when a child falls, uh, you should say it's okay. It happens. Just, are you okay? Move on. And I think it creates a mental health strength in that way that they feel that if you fall, it's fine. The bigger story is, can you pick yourself up and continue? I think that creates mental resilience. That is one ideology which I think is there. The other thing is, I think that the support for each other. Sometimes, like you correctly pointed out, medical professionals don't reach the people who actually need the help because they don't attend to them. You see, unfortunately, the doctor can't and go and meet the patient. The patient has to come and meet the doctor. That is the way that mental health goes. So I think the way that the doctor can reach the patient is if they do a mental health screening. And that's where you actually find that, okay, you can actually get screening and then you can get the patient to the doctor. And that is important. And I think the other part which is important is family members who can identify, like what you rightly pointed out. And I honestly think that if the family member does not know what to do, they can actually give them these assessment scales to see whether they are actually depressed, having anxiety and stress, and then get them to actually see a mental health professional. Actually, my third question to you, Vance, was how do you encourage people to help people who they think are having mental health disorders? I mean, for their own well being and for another person, mental wise.
Okay, doctor. I mean, see, I think it is. I mean, you don't need to be a psychologist to understand this, or you don't need to be a therapist or counselor or even doctors. Basic signs and symptoms are very important, which I believe. I think these are the indications. If a person is not been sleeping well, sleeping less than 5 hours or 4 hours in 1 week time, you can actually see the eyes are full of eye bags or some kind of
Yep.
worrying or some kind of financial issue, or when we talk about family issue, it can be pertaining to anything. The mind can be either a pleasant heaven of gardens of fruits, or it can be a junkyard with lots of chao- chaotic things can happen there. But having said that, so the eyes can be indications. And if a person is very chirpy, very fun loving things, and suddenly you notice that particular person is somehow or other isolating themselves. They don't want to talk to you. They keep it everything to themselves. And that could be also a sign of loss of interest in social activity. The social network, they don't want to get into that. And excessive weight loss. Excessive weight loss is also can be contributed because probably you have not much of an appetite, and
Or
probably your
excessive weight gain, bro.
yes, doctor. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you
I
talked
see
about that.
some
Yeah.
people who are depressed and they eat and eat and eat and eat.
Yeah, it can go other ways. One is the downwards, one is the upscale, and another part where we talked about, or I actually face a lot of the time because I'm also now a doctor. I think probably you'll know I'm currently pursuing my studies in psychology and counseling at the moment. So very interesting studies, how the mind evolve time to time. How can a super positive person can be a super negative person? So it must be a filter. Have you heard about this thing called thermostat, doctor? Have you heard about a thermostat?
Yeah, yeah, thermostat. Yeah.
The thermostat will only open when there's warm water coming in, or rather hot water. It's not the vast or the flask that we use. No, so our mind should be like a thermostat. You only allow hot positive news and hot positive energies to come in. Anything that is going to disturb you, or anything that is going to give distortions, you should block them out at that point itself. You shouldn't be letting in. Because the moment you even let a 3% or 4%, it is just like COVID. It will come and mess up the whole mind. And someone who is very positive and fully energized can automatically be drained. So if you ask me, is it right for someone to be emotionally or to be strength? I think there is a lot of mixtures of feelings. If you ever want to go back to your past to be emotionally, because you lost, say, let's say I lost my dad, I'm allowed to go back to my past, feel about it. Okay, I'm going to rock on. You come back to the present and you just move on. But we shouldn't be sticking into that. We can allow that to happen because it's perfectly fine, but we have to move on. That is what all about life is. But sometimes it's not as easy as what we talk, because together to get that motivational, you need a lot of support guidelines for them. And for people who have noticed that, if your families or friends who go through these kind of symptoms and signs, probably it's best that you have a basic talk to understand how they feel that. But if you think that it is not within your limits, then I think you should get the professional help. I think that is very, very important. There's a lot of huge amount of helplines. Maybe later we can post it for Malaysia and Singapore. I know befrienders are there. Even Singapore's also.
Yep.
There's so many hotlines. We can post it here. You can call them immediately and get that person, attend to it. That's one of the best thing that someone can do. I mean,
And
that's the approach I will go.
and I'm very happy that you brought up the word of these NGOs who are doing these call centers. Um, Even though I feel that the issues in Malaysia and Singapore has gone up, in Malaysia especially, you find that there are more and more NGOs coming up who are doing this good work. And I was very impressed that I actually found one NGO that only focuses on mental health in adolescents. That's it. No special adolescents, because sometimes kids or adolescents refuse to pick up the phone because they say, "Ayo, I'm going to talk to an adult. How will the adult understand me?" But they have a society, if I'm not mistaken, it's called Kau Okay Ke, which it translates to "Are you okay?" in Malay.
Okay.
And it's beautiful because I feel that it's very nice that they help people who call up who are adolescents. They don't turn away adults. Don't get me wrong. But the beautiful part is they still listen to everyone, but they are focused on adolescents. Of course, there are other groups also who focus on elderly, on kids or parents or couples. But I think this pandemic has also brought that up, and I think I'm very happy to see the part where there is a large part of society who wants to contribute. They come in and there are a group of people who want to help genuinely, because these are all free counseling sessions. So I think if there's any positives to take away from COVID-19, we have seen that mental health has become almost important, and we've seen a lot of non-medical support, help, and therapy come into play.
Doctor, the topic that you mentioned about adolescents, I think it's one of the favorite topic that I will want to talk about. Just a very quick one recap. Eric Erikson, a very famous psychologist, has mentioned
Yeah.
that in a human life there's 8 stages, and stage 1, stage 2, from infant all the way to elderly, Even when you are in that stage 7 or stage 8, you should be able to prepare yourself to get departed to the next journey, if there is. And whatever happens in the younger age of the stage 1 to stage 4 or stage 3, that will be a major impact as an adulthood when things can go wrong. So it's very important that as a child who building up or coming up, parents should play a very important role. School have to play a very important role. Society have to play a very role. But I think the society, not within our control, because we have kind people, we have unkind people, we can have all sorts of people. That makes the world. So we need to make our kids a tough buddies. We cannot make them like a soft buddy, because then things can go wrong. As a parent, you can always be a superhero or super mom. But what happens when your child is not with you? You are not in control with them. So you must mentally and physically, I think physically you get them tough. I think mentally they will be able to handle it as they grow by. I think that's one thing that parents should focus on. Doc, I got a question for you that is asked by one of our regular viewer, supporter, Deepam. And she said that, Dr. A. Vance, is depression or stress the only indicators of mental health, or others? Doctor?
I think the question is multifactorial with multifactorial answers. They are not the only indicators, but they can coexist with other conditions. Meaning, the person may be having bipolar disorder, but with depression. So that means you only see the depressive part. You have not seen the other part of the hyperactive disorder. Stress can be because of multiple personality disorders. Could be with a sleeping disorder, could be with the eating disorder. There's so many things. So the thing is, you may identify one condition, but with something else underlying in between. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to a mental health professional, so that if you think that the person is having stress or anxiety or depression, they may be having something underlying which needs to be sorted out. Sometimes they even have endocrine metabolism disorders. They have thyrotoxicosis, they have high thyroid levels, they have low thyroid levels, can be depression, can be with stress, can be with anxiety. So there's so many other things that can occur with that. So I think there are many others, but we see this. Why we always talk about depression, anxiety, and stress is because these are the very, very common three particular diagnosis or even particular conditions with people.
Thank you, Doctor, for the answer on Deepam. Deepam, yes, I think it's a very interesting topic, because depression, like I always mention, how does one will know if it's under depressed? Never knows, unless the person it's a silent killer. It's like wearing a mask all the time with a tight belt behind. So it is must. But the person who is going through this, it can be a very tremendous period of time, because it's more like a stigma. Nowadays, when you say you are going to see a psychologist or you want to see a counselor or therapist, do you have a problem? Oh, why are you going to see them? You have mental issue. Are you mad? So I think these words all, I think, to be isolated. We can't stop people from talking, because that is how the world is. But whoever listening it, you should just put a full stop, or just take it that person doesn't exist in life anymore, because you cannot allow these comments to affect you, and it will affect your hormones. You will affect your entire day, and probably will add another 30% or 40% stress to your mind and to your body. Why do you want to give the privileges to other people to control whether you can be happy or sad? You shouldn't let that happen. You are in control of your own self. So I think that is the most important part. But like what Doctor has said, we need to open up our eyes. We need to look through. It sometimes can be very tricky. Like I told you, Doctor, earlier on, that I saw a woman was sitting down with a phone, looking blank. I mean, sometimes when you can talk, things can go wrong. But this is a society that we live in, right? Even if you want to assist help, it can also go into the other way, right? When you go and ask someone who say, "How are you?" She said, "What is your problem?" That can be also an issue. But I think the major part is the loved ones, the families, the friends have to be very cautious. And during this period of time, I think there are a lot of people. What they're doing, they form up groups. They call themselves like WhatsApp groups, like heroes or whatever, the names. And they constantly keeping in touch to make sure that everybody is safe. and can understand Malaysia's situation as well right now. It's been months and months and months, like lockdown has happened, and it's how's that been coping, doctor? I mean, I know it's bad, but are we seeing light at the end of the tunnel? That's the question. It's hard to be explained.
I always believe in this. I think that even though I don't believe that vaccines are the silver bullet, I think it is a way out to a safer environment. We can't look at total numbers because you must remember that a person who is vaccinated can still get COVID 19, but they will get only very, very mild COVID 19. So I think the way out is once we have everybody vaccinated or adequate people vaccinated, we can actually move into a safer environment. We can live with COVID. But unfortunately, until then, people have to play the role of opting for the vaccine. I still don't understand why people are hesitant. Of course, if it's medically contraindicated, okay, it's fine. But if it is there for you to take, why is there a lot of hesitancy? You are talking about people who are suffering from side effects, about maybe what, 5, 10 people from a few million? Come on, man. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Some people have told me it's easier to strike the jackpot than get a side effect from the vaccine. So why are we not opting for the vaccine? You know, when the more and more we deny and hesitate for the vaccine, do you know that we're actually denying and hesitating ourselves of actually going back to a near normal? That's my take on it.
You know, doctor, even in Singapore situation right now, we have trying to do different things to get our elderly, because elderly have their own concerns, because like I talk about it, the fear is always there. Fear of death is in for everybody, because what happens is darkness. So what we have done here in Singapore by our great leaders, they have sending people to the home to get vaccinated. I mean, to get
Great.
people vaccinated. So in that way, we are trying to explore a lot of stuff and kind of thing. And of course, we know that Malaysia is a bigger place as well compared to Singapore, and a lot of efforts have been doing that. But I think this is not the time to point fingers and say you are better than me, I'm better than you. You are
Exactly.
making mistakes. No, what we're going to prove by showing that someone is mistake, it shows that you are a greater person. No, it's not. This thing we want it to be end as soon as possible so that we can move on and start going to Singapore or Malaysia, vice versa, and
Exactly.
enjoy all our local food. But I need to bring you to Mutu's curry. That's one of our favorite, rather, yeah, our favorite. I talked to you about that before, right?
Yep.
You got to come there, yeah.
We must.
I am a diehard fan of Muthu's curry. I got to declare that. But of course, the owner of Muthu's curry have not paid me to do this. But I enjoy the food. But I got to say that once you're here, I'm bringing you, doc. That's no question
Thanks.
about
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, whether we are going other place or not, but the first place from airport, we straight go to Muthu's
Muthu
curry.
curries.
Okay, doctor. I think we are pretty much almost there, and if any more questions that we can take on, because almost going to be an hour, so we try to keep it all our sessions in 1 hour, and this will be telecasted tomorrow as well, also in the morning as a repeat telecast, so people can watch this. Doctor, any final? I mean, of course, there can be never final at Kopi events with you, talking in our platform. Well, what is your word for tonight, doc? I mean, your advice or tip?
Don't underestimate mental health. Mental health issues can affect anyone, the strongest and the weakest. I think there's no stronger and weakest where there's mental health. Everybody may, at one point in their life, have a mental health issue. Most important is resilience. Get help, get help, get help. And if you feel that the current conditions are bad, play your role. The best way to play your role is get vaccinated, stay safe, practice all the standard operating procedures, wear your mask. Now we're talking about double mask. If possible, a face shield. Make sure you're physically distanced. Keep your hand hygiene as much as possible. And God willing, we will be there in the near future, crossing borders, eating curry in Muthu Curry's house.
Wow, that's a good statement. I was just expecting for that, and I got excited. Thank you, Doc. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Doc. I mean,
most
it is
welcome.
not one solution to fits all problems, but at least we are addressing it. At least we are creating some awareness. Even if it reaches to only one people, and that one people share with 10 people, I think that what makes our job or our passion satisfied. So thank you, Doctor, for joining me at Kopi Advance. I'm sure there will be another topic coming up very, very soon. We will stay in touch, Doc.
Definitely. Thanks, man. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you,
Stay
Doctor.
safe.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Practice the best SOPs.
Thanks, Doc. Catch you on. See you. Bye. All right, people. So that is Dr. Arvinder and one of our regular speaker at Kopi Events. Great guy with lots of informations, and we always have great sharing sessions at Kopi Events. So thank you for joining me for another exciting session. And just to finish up, like what the topics today is all about is about mental health, and it's not something that can fit all problem. I mean, for people who are watching this, and if you do think you need some sort of help, all right, getting help doesn't show that your weakness. Never. Getting help doesn't mean that you are in fear. No, it's not about that at all. Going into getting into some sort of help doesn't mean that people are giving you judgment and comments that make you down. Never. I in my speeches most of the time, all right, literally, I think out of 10, I will mention this about 9 times. Do not let people comments affect you, not even a percent. If you do allow that to happen, it means that you are giving the full power to whoever it is. All right, as long you are truthful to yourself, you are committed with your passion and your vision, go for it. And if you need help, ask. If you want the door to be opened, you got to knock. But make sure that you knock at the correct doors. So we're going to put the help lines, even for Malaysia and Singapore, in our comment section. So people who are watching this, and if you want to stay anonymous, please, so you don't need to reveal. But if you do need to help, please contact us. We do know who to send to, and we know what numbers to call for. All right, and I think that is one part that Dr. Arvinder has always been committed for, and myself, and few of our teams. So if you do have any issues, please speak up. By keeping it to yourself, it's not going to solve. And together, we are going to conquer this very, very soon. But before that, we need to have that mental resilience. Having said that, this is your Vance from Kopi with Vance. I'm going to catch you again in the next topic to come by, which is every Wednesday at 9 or 9:30 p.m. But today is 9:30 because we want to push a bit late, but usually it's 9 p.m. All right? Adios, amigo. I'm going to catch you soon in next Wednesday. Ciao.